Hello and welcome everybody. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you're joining us. We had participation and registration from around the world. Welcome to this South Center webinar on leveraging Global South data through digital public infrastructure, or DPI, for sustainable development. My name is Danish. I am a program officer at the South Center. The South Center is an intergovernmental think tank and a research organization of the Global South based in Geneva. Today is DPI Day being celebrated as part of the UN Open Source Week in New York, and we thought it would be a good occasion to showcase some of the innovations that are happening in the Global South regarding DPI and how those can be leveraged using the data of the Global South for sustainable development. Now I'd like to invite our Executive Director, Dr. Carlos Correa, to deliver his opening remarks.
Well, thank you, Danish. Let me welcome you all to this seminar. The South Center, we are very glad to have you. The South Center has been working in the area of digital transformations in the last few years, and now in particular on artificial intelligence and DPIs, as mentioned by Danish. And also let me thank our distinguished speakers. We're also very glad to have them. So let me make some very brief introductory remarks regarding this issue. Dennis, if you can then move to the next one. In the first place, let me mention that the South Center has published two important documents regarding this issue. The first one is by two of our distinguished speakers, the Digital Public Infrastructure for Democratic Data Monetization, which is available on the website of the South Center. And the second one is by Danish, Taking Forward Digital Public Infrastructure for the Global South. So these are important analysis of the DPIs and the important role that they may play in developing countries. Next one, please. So why DPI are important in developing countries? So as we will discussing during this webinar, DPIs have become critical tools for inclusive and effective digital transformation. They are affordable, so the initial investment is not out of reach for most developing countries. Of course, there are some other investments that need to be made during implementation, but there are open source building blocks that can be used. There has been support by the World Bank and UNDP in order to deploy DPIs. Therefore, these are important tools, but they are also affordable for developing countries. And what's key is that DPIs represent transformative technology with a very high social impact. Therefore, it is a kind of innovation that can help developing countries to achieve SDGs in many respects, and therefore a tool that needs to be considered. Next one, please. So some of the benefits of DPIs, they allow countries to retain control over their own data, as already suggested by Danish. They allow countries to build digital solutions which are suited to their populations, to national context and actual requirements. And these allow developing countries to be independent from any external platform, which is also important, so that we no dependence on the big tech companies, and therefore the own solutions can be provided. Next one, please. There are very important national experiences that will be reviewed during this webinar. Just to advance some information, in the case of India, about 99% of Indian adult population has already been enrolled in Aadhaar, its digital ID scheme. The case of Brazil is also very interesting. PAY has brought more than 70 million Brazilians into the formal financial system. More information will be provided during this webinar. In the case of Indonesia also, it has been applying DPIs across critical sectors such as health and social protection. It is quite interesting because these experiences are inspiring other developing countries, but also countries in the global north. So this is clearly innovation which is coming from developing countries. Next one, please. There are three core functions for DPIs: digital identity, for instance, I mentioned in the case of India, digital payments, which also mean financial inclusion, and data exchange. In accordance to information which provided in the document that I mentioned before, authored by Danish, there are 57 countries with digital identity systems, 93 countries with digital payment systems, and 103 countries with data exchange systems. So there is still a significant room for other countries to adopt these tools. Next one, please. And then just to mention the recognition that DPIs has received recently in the in the United Nations Global Digital Compact. It is mentioned that digital public goods and DPIs are key drivers of inclusive digital transformation and innovation. Next one. In the G20, there has been an important work done by the successive presidencies of developing countries, and then built upon the consensus for DPI established during India's presidency in 2023, Brazil's presidency 2024. Some guidelines have been adopted, which emphasize data sovereignty and inclusive digital transformation. Important work has been conducted on the G20. Yeah, next one, please. And then let me just end by making reference to an interesting statement in one report by OECD, which, as you know, is mainly an organization of developed countries, where it is noted that when it comes to developing countries, DPA offers an opportunity to leapfrog progress from a less advanced starting point compared to the trajectory of progress in developed countries that often have a significant number of aging DPI systems and legacy technology that is both expensive and complex to operate and even more expensive to transition from. In contrast, the relative technological greenfield of developing countries means they can move more directly and quickly to efficient and streamlined solutions. Therefore, this is a very interesting example of leapfrogging, which has been mentioned in many cases as one of the routes that developing countries may follow. And interestingly, this is recognized by this OECD document. With this, let me just welcome you again and thank you for your participation. And I hope you have a very interesting conversation during this webinar. Thank you. You cannot be heard, Danish.
Sorry. Thank you very much, Professor Correa, for your opening remarks. As you rightly point out, there is innovation and innovative approaches coming from the Global South on DPIs, and we have a distinguished panel with us to help explain what are some of the experiences from developing countries, what have been some of the lessons learned, and how these experience could be replicated to leverage Global South data and how it could be used to build increasing financial inclusion and sustainable development across the world. We have a distinguished panel with representatives from India, Brazil, and Indonesia. Of course, the standard disclaimer is that they are speaking their personal capacity, and what they say does not necessarily represent the views of their governments. I will introduce the panelists as they come along. Our first panelist is Mr. Rajesh Kumar and Ms. Meghna Dhariwal. They are the co-authors of the report mentioned by Dr. Correa. Mr. Rajesh Kumar is Director at the Ministry of Electronics and Information Technology, MeitY, of the Government of India, where he leads international cooperation and engagement on digital policy and technology-related matters. He is responsible for India's engagement with multilateral international forums, as well as bilateral partnerships on digital technologies. He has represented India in several high-level international negotiations and fora on issues related to the digital economy, data governance, digital public infrastructure, and AI. Ms. Meghna Dhariwal is the Senior Consultant on International Cooperation at MeitY. She has been working in the public policy sector for the past 7 years, and her work focuses on digital development, digital governance, and strengthening public systems through technology-enabled policy and implementation. On the basis of your report on using digital public infrastructure for democratic data monetization, which was published in February, could I request the authors to please tell us how DPI can be used to monetize data, especially from the Global South, and how it can be used to promote more democratic and equitable access to the benefits of data. Mr. Rajesh, Meghna, you have the floor.
Thank you so much, Danish, for the warm introduction. And also, thank you, Dr. Carlos and South Center for inviting us for this important panel discussion on democratic data monetization through DPI, which can be leveraged by the citizens or individuals from the countries of the global South nations. In this presentation, we will introduce a conceptual framework that explores how the benefits generated from the data can be distributed more equitably. The ideas shared today are based on the recently published work, which was mentioned by Danish, the report on DPI for democratic data monetization, and is intended to stimulate discussion on how digital public infrastructure can support a more inclusive data economy altogether. Can we go to second slide, please? So before we begin the presentation, there is a small disclaimer that the views expressed here are completely personal in nature, and we are representing in our personal capacity based on the research work done through the report of DPI-DDM, and do not present the official stance and position of Government of India. Next, please. So I think Dr. Carlos has made our task a bit easier, defining the concepts of DPI and the global positions countries have taken with the advent of a DPI approach, along with its adoption, especially by the global South countries in India, Brazil, South Africa, and Indonesia is also coming up with their digital solutions. So this concept comes from the G20 discussions held in 2023 under the Indian presidency, wherein DPI is defined as a set of shared digital systems that should be secure and interoperable and can be built on open standards and specifications to deliver public and private services at societal scale and governed by applicable legal frameworks to drive innovation, development, inclusion, and trust and competition. So the DPI framework has three core layers in it: community participation, governance framework, and technology component. And these three layers work upon the core guiding principles, which are mentioned here as interoperability, modularity, scalability, privacy by design, grievance redressal, sustainability, and accountability of the public institutions. Next, please. So these are the main outcomes under the Indian G20 presidency, and the momentum was continued over the next two presidencies under the Brazil and South African presidency, wherein the concept of DPI along with its framework were globally recognized, and there were many other outcomes apart from the GPI framework. One was the global DPI repository, which was developed by India, and presently we have around 54 DPI solutions from 16 countries around the globe. There was an agreement on a multi-stakeholder initiative for coordinated financing and technical support to develop DPI ecosystem in the low and middle income countries. Apart from that, there were two reports published in association with the UNDP, the DPI approach, a playbook, and a compendium for accelerating DPI SDGs through the use of DPI. Next, please. So after that, DPI has gained the global recognition at the United Nations level also, especially under the Global Digital Compact agreed in September 2024, wherein it was recognized that resilient, safe, inclusive, and interoperable DPI has the potential to deliver services at scale and increase social and economic opportunities for all. Apart from that, para 48 of the GDC mandates the UN Commission on Science and Technology Development to establish a dedicated working group to lead comprehensive and inclusive multi-stakeholder dialogue on data governance at all levels. And after that, a CSTD working group on data governance was established. So the working group has core themes, including one on data sharing, benefits of data sharing, wherein DPI plays a foundational role for inclusive data governance by lowering barriers to access socially and economically valuable data. So it has been globally recognized that investments in DPI help prevent innovation from being centralized among a few big techs or geographical areas and promote a more equitable distribution of data-driven benefits for all. Next, please. So as Dr. Carlos mentioned in his presentation, I would not repeat these DPI solutions. The ID, Aadhaar from India, digital payments, UPI, and data exchange, DigiLocker. Next, please. So we have transformative solutions across the globe, especially from the global south, SingPass from Singapore, UAE Pass from UAE, and PEX, a digital payment solution from Brazil. Apart from that, Indonesia is also developing different DPI solutions in digital ID and different sectors also. Next, please. So now we come to the core problem on the basis of which our report has been published in the South Center. The core problem of data, which recognizes as a strategic economic asset, yet its economic and monetary benefits are not equally divided among its data generators or the data principals, especially in the countries like India and other global south nations. Next, please. So how do we perceive data monetization? We suggest this process as a generating measurable financial and strategic value from data, especially with respect to the personal data generated by the individuals and being used by different stakeholders across the data lifecycle ecosystem. So basically, it has two broad ways for monetizing it. One is direct, that includes selling and licensing its own data sets, paper API request models, subscription-based data access, and governed consent-based data sharing system. Indirectly, we have operational cost saving via data insights, improved decision making, new product development with the use of data and its corresponding value, and process efficiency gains. Next, please. So how we have come to a conclusion that DPI is a best approach for monetization, because we have taken the case study of India's DPI stack that has proven at scale population, including the digital ID Aadhaar, digital payment system UPI, consent-based data sharing data vault, that is digital locker, and ONDC, which is Open Network for Digital Commerce, to democratize the use of technology for digital commerce. So DPI has uniquely suited for data monetization because it is interoperable, scalable, inclusive, and governed by trusted and secure rules built around it. Next, please. So from the research of King's 2024, the global data monetization market in 2023 was 3.38 billion US dollars, which will lead to 13.09 billion US dollar with a CAGR of 18.43% by 2031. And the key characteristics we have envisaged in this proposal is that this is an open protocol-based network architecture. There is consent-based secure data sharing, standardized secure data exchange architecture, and federated data contribution, access, and innovation by different stakeholders who are included in the life cycle of the data monetization. So it is anchored and rooted in two democratic principles. One is equality, and second is participation. By equality, we mean that challenging the oligopoly of few big techs, wherein data belongs to those who create it, but to who monetize it with the use of collection, storage, and processing of data. And second is participation, empowering citizens and individuals, entrepreneurs, and communities to engage with data on their own terms and conditions. Next, please. So I'll request my colleague Meghna to take us through the proposed DPI-DDM framework from here. Thank you.
Thank you, sir. And greetings to all the co-panelists and everyone joining us virtually. Let me now walk you through the DPI-DDM framework and how it might work in practice through its layered architecture. At one end of the ecosystem are the data suppliers. These may include individuals, businesses, governments, or institutions that contribute the data. And on the other end are data consumers, such as companies, businesses, researchers, NGOs, or AI developers who need access to data. Mapping these two ends of the ecosystem will help align the supply and demand so that the right data reaches the ones who are actually seeking it. The onboarding process for data suppliers and consumers is intended to be secure and user-friendly. Participants shall be verified using digital identity and advanced authentication mechanisms so that only the trusted actors enter the ecosystem. Connecting these participants will be the supplier and consumer dashboards on both the ends, respectively. These dashboards will act as the interfaces through which users can manage their interaction with the ecosystem. So for suppliers, the dashboard will allow them to decide what data sets they wish to share, track the values generated from their contributions, manage or revoke consent wherever they choose. And for consumers, the dashboard will provide a way to browse through the available data pools, purchase data sets, manage payment, monitor service requests, or track the progress of outsourced tasks. Together, these layers create a trusted and transparent environment for democratic participation in the data economy. Another key component of the framework is consent manager. Users shall decide how, what, and how much of their data can be used. The consent managers will ensure that these conditions are respected and met. Consent managers will be data blind and won't be able to read, store, or analyze the underlying data. The role will purely be to facilitate the authorized exchange while protecting user privacy. The framework also supports portability, allowing individuals to switch between consent manager services, thereby avoiding any service provider lock-in. Users have full liberty to switch between consent managers if they wish to. Complementing this role is the clearinghouse. The clearinghouse will log all the activities associated with the data exchange. So all three data providers, service providers, and data consumers will record the transaction details upon completion of the task. These logs become important. These logs become important for billing purposes, resolving disputes, confirming successful transfers. In addition, a dedicated support mechanism can assist users with the issues related to payments and transactions. Another layer is the service layer, which you can see in the blue shade on the top. The layer provides opportunities for participation by large firms, startups, professionals, and individual capacity or gig economy workers. These service providers can contribute at different stages of a data lifecycle, including data annotation, cleaning, analysis, visualization, anything, whatever capacity they wish to contribute in. This flexibility allows actors of varying sizes and capabilities to participate meaningfully in the ecosystem. Another key feature of this framework is the concept of digital data commons, which you can see like in circles in the center of the framework. These are shared data pools to which both individuals and organizations can voluntarily contribute, creating data sets that address a wide range of societal, research, and commercial needs. These data commons could be created for many different purposes. For example, collecting translations to preserve local languages, or building repositories of X-rays to support medical research, or bringing together nutrition data to improve health programs. So data commons can emerge in two ways. One, they may be voluntarily, like driven by communities that wish to contribute towards a shared purpose, or they can be incentivized, where institutions or organizations can invite contributions and compensate participants for their time and effort. So they can decide if some company wants a particular kind of data set, so they can float a request and then ask uh, individuals or contributors to contribute to that particular, to enrich that particular data set. In this way, data common becomes a mechanism not only for creating valuable data sets, but also for enabling broader participation and ensuring that individuals and communities have a meaningful role to play in shaping and benefiting from the data economy. Next slide, please. Next, please. Thank you. The DPI-DDM framework also creates multiple avenues for value generation. So one revenue stream is selling or licensing data sets, where organizations can sell or provide access to their data sets to businesses, researchers, academic institutions, and other users. Second model is paid and staggered access, where pricing tiers are decided according to the level of usage. So this promotes efficient consumption while aligning cost with actual needs. So, and the third is the framework supports subscription models as well, where users pay recurring fees to access specific data sets, creating predictable revenue streams for the data providers as well. Fourth is entities such as consent manager, service layer providers can earn income through the service fees. Like if there's a consent manager or service layer provider, when somebody is providing a service, then they can directly take service fees. Benefit of this framework extends across the ecosystem. So industry and enterprises gain access to relevant data sets while reducing the cost and effort associated with building their own infrastructure. MSME and startups benefit from a more level playing field through access to data sets and related services that might otherwise be beyond their reach. And gig economy workers can generate additional income by providing services like data cleaning, annotation, analyzing, visualization. The AI and machine learning ecosystem benefits from the creation of high quality, reliable, and diverse datasets needed to train robust models. Academia gains access to structured datasets for advanced research, while NGOs can use this insight to design more targeted social interventions. Next slide, please. So for framework like this to function effectively at scale, certain housekeeping practices become essential. First is easy onboarding. Data submission processes should be designed so that even individuals without technical expertise can participate through guided workflows and simple requirements. Second is the use of standardized vocabulary. A common language for describing and annotating data improves interoperability and ensures that all the participants interpret and utilize data consistently. Third is legal compliance. The handling, processing, and sharing of data should adhere to the applicable domestic data protection laws, sector-specific regulations, and related guidelines to safeguard individual rights. The framework also envisages Digi readiness certificates, particularly for individuals and individual contributors and service providers. These certificates would help assess the digital capabilities. Participation in such certification program would be voluntarily, and individual users would generally face simplified or no certification requirements unless a particular incentivized data pool establishes a contribution benchmark. And these practices will help ensure that the participation remains both inclusive and trustworthy. Next slide, please. Over to you, Rajesh sir. Thank you so much, everybody.
Thank you, Meghna, for explaining the framework. So while it has been recognized and established that we can have this kind of framework for having the exact value of data and maybe benefited out of it. But apart from that, we will be having key implementation challenges. While the framework offers significant promise, several implementation challenges must also be acknowledged before testing it on ground. The first one is the security. Since multiple entities participate in this data flows, robust encryption and strict access control are required at every layer, of this system. The second one is data quality. Activities such as cleaning, deduplication, and quality management must be coordinated across all multiple actors. Third is privacy. Different categories of data requires different level of protection, and based upon respective national and sectoral legal frameworks must always be respected. The fourth one is mass adoption. The benefit of this framework needs to be clearly demonstrated, and onboarding must remain simple so that each and every individual and ecosystem partner can be onboarded without any hindrance. Without broader participation in this ecosystem, the contribution to the data economy will remain limited, and the potential benefits may not be reaped by everyone. Finally, the challenge of governance is also there, since the framework does not rely on a single central authority. Collaborative governance arrangements involving networks, civil society, governments, and other stakeholders become essential. So, addressing these challenges thoughtfully will be critical to translating the promise of DPI-DDM into practical outcomes. Next, please. So the way forward could be, while we have outlined what such framework could look like, it is important to recognize that DPI-DDM remains a concept taking into account various aspects of data in its life cycle. Our vision is of resilient DPI that democratizes the benefit of data, fosters innovation, drives inclusive economic participation, and safeguards individual rights at population scale. At the same time, this framework has been conceptualized drawing on insights from India's DPI journey. It is not intended as a one-size-fits-all model. Rather, it may offer a promising approach if adapted to the unique context, priorities, and development needs of different countries and its digital ecosystem. Importantly, this framework needs to be tested in practice before adoption and implementation. Pilot implementation by public institutions, academic bodies, development organizations, communities, and private sector could help validate this model, identify gaps, and refine its design based on real-world experience. So ultimately, the conversion is not only about how data can create value, but also about who gets to participate in creating that value and who gets to benefit out of it. If we can leverage the principle of openness, trust, participation, and inclusion that underpin DPI, we believe it may be possible to move towards a more democratic data economy, one in which the benefits of data are shared more broadly and more equitably. Thank you for your patience, and we are open to take questions now. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Rajesh sir and Meghna, for that very interesting presentation. It shows the importance of having models for developing countries in which they're able to leverage and make use of their own data rather than just being passive sites of data extraction by external platforms and actors. They're able to grab hold of their own data and make use of it. We will now move to the next speaker, and I would encourage the participants to please make use of the Q&A box to put in any questions, and after the presentations, we'll come and have a small Q&A session at the end. I would next like to invite Mr. Bruno Santana Lobo as the next speaker. Mr. Lobo is the Deputy Head of Competition and Financial Market Structure Department at the Banco Central do Brasil, or the Brazilian Central Bank. He's been working in the bank's payment systems areas for 20 years. He's the project manager for the implementation of PIX, which was being mentioned as one of the more important payment systems coming out of Brazil, which has had a lot of success and even attracted hostility from some developed countries. He's currently working as the team leader responsible for the management and operation of PIX, contributing to its evolving agenda and operational procedures. So, Mr. Lobo, for you, Given Brazil's successful use of its national data for the development of PIX, could you please share how DPAs are being used to enhance financial inclusion in Brazil and how it could be replicated in other developing countries? Thank you very much. You have the floor.
Thank you, Danish. I'd like, first of all, thank the South Century for the invitation. It's always a pleasure to share our experience regarding PIX and discussing PIX as a digital public infrastructure for financial inclusion and development. So first of all, I'll try to explain a little bit how we see PIX as a digital public infrastructure and the role that the Central Bank of Brazil play on this ecosystem on a very framework where we set responsibilities and liabilities between the provider of the infrastructure, that is the Central Bank of Brazil, which is a public agency, and the private agents who are the payment service providers that provide the payment service to end users. So we built the infrastructure, and we launched it in 2020. And nowadays we operate and we manage the infrastructure. It's composed of a rule book with all the rules, operational procedures, that provides all the responsibilities and rights and how to provide the service. And of course, we also built and operate the infrastructure that supports the payment service. We have two main platforms. We have the settlement infrastructure itself that settles the payment transactions. And we have a proxy directory and a central anti-fraud database that helps and facilitates the use of PIX transactions by the population. And payment service providers compete in the provision of the service to end users. Payment service providers can be both banks and non-banks, so that stimulates the reach of the PSPs around the Brazilian population and facilitates the financial inclusion of our population. And they are in charge of the consumer and business relationship with individuals, merchants, government agents, non-profits, and everyone that wants to make digital payments. So that's the new payments DPI that we launched in 2020. It's an account-to-account credit transfer for instant payments and transfers for any use case. So we can make transfers between persons. We can purchase things at the point of sale physically and on the e-commerce, on the m-commerce. We can pay our taxes. We can pay our bills. All using PIX infrastructure, so it was built for all Brazilians. Some numbers just to share the effects of PIX on financial inclusion here in Brazil. By December 25, we were processing around 8 billion transactions per month. And in 2025, we had almost 80 billion transactions. It's almost 400 transactions per capita. And PIX right now represents more than 50% of all electronic payments in Brazil, including here the transactions that uses credit cards and debit cards. In January of this year, more than 140 Brazilians initiated at least one PIX transaction. So we are talking about usual unique users per month. It represents around 90% of the Brazilian adult population. So PIX had a real rich effect upon the whole levels of the society, irrespective of the level of income, irrespective of age, of the region of Brazil. So we have some numbers here to share. As a payment service that everyone uses, PIX served as the entrance door to the financial system. So people were included into the financial system and they were able to start to access other digital services. Especially during the pandemics when PIX were launched, people that didn't rely on credit cards, they started to have access to these digital services through PIX. PIX helped those people that were outside of the digital world to be included and start to have access to the e-commerce, food delivery, right, apps, entertainment. So PIX also helps to build citizenship and dignity to the whole population. So we saw an increase on the use of digital transfers. More than 70 million Brazilians started to transfer money digitally. And we saw a reduce in the use of cash, and of course an increase not only on the use of PIX but on other digital means of payments. And some data on financial inclusion. The number of individuals with an account in Brazil increased by almost 20 basis points from 2019 to 2024. The number of active users, there are the actual individuals and businesses that actually transfer money or use any other financial service on the financial system, also increased a lot, more than doubled for individuals, and increased even more for the businesses. So here we include the micro entrepreneurs, those individuals that are in the informal markets, that they were able to start to use PIX in order to sell their purchases, their goods and services. And they were also included in the financial system. So it let them have access to other financial services, such as credit, microcredit, investments, insurance. So PIX really helped this level of the society to be included into the financial system. PIX is used by all the Brazilians, irrespective of the age, even though the proportion of the Brazilians, the older ones that use PIX are lower than the younger ones. More than 50% of the Brazilians over 60 years old, they use PIX. So it also has this digital inclusion effect on the elderly share of the population. And PIX is used by all the Brazilians, irrespective of their income level. We have data that 72% of low-income Brazilians used PIX in 2023. It's 32 transactions per month on average. And the use of this share of the population is increasing year after year. So that's something that we really see that's happening in Brazil, that we are giving the possibility of the poorer share of the population to also transact digitally. Just to finish my presentation, once we are talking about data here on this webinar, how we use data on PIX. Once we are a digital public infrastructure, we centralize all the data that flows between the payment service providers. So the Central Bank of Brazil holds information upon every transaction, and we can identify the payers, the DPIs, and then we can classify those payers in payees by age, gender, income, region, business size, business activity. So we can write reports. We can use this data aggregatedly speaking. Of course, they are protected by our general data protection law, but we can use that to guide our public policy on which feature we must develop in order to support and meet the needs of the share of the population that needs most the use of this kind of digital transfers. On the one side, we have this kind of use of data. Of course, we don't have anything like monetization of data. That's something that definitely we could be discussing internally. But on the other side, we also serve as a centralized database for fraud information. So we share directly this data with our police and public prosecutors, so that can help them on their investigations. And we also share this fraud data with the whole financial system. So the banks and non-banks, they can use this data in order to protect the consumers here in Brazil. So that's how we use data. We have a very rich data set here. We could be using it more for more analysis, but I believe that everything that we do right now, it's data oriented, and it really guides our public policy and all the functionality and features that we develop upon the infrastructure that is already built and provided by the whole Brazilian population. So that's it, Dennis. Thank you very much for your attention.
Thank you very much, Mr. Lobo, for that very insightful presentation. As you rightly point out, PIX has been a success story, and it has actually brought in so many people, millions of Brazilians, into the formal financial system. But one of the most interesting points was how data-driven that is, because PIX has been iteratively increasing the number of people, and it has used the data of its people to identify trends, see the people who are being excluded, and how they can also be brought in. So the data has actually been utilized not just in creating PIX, but also implementing and increasing its efficiency. But also similar experiences exist in Indonesia, and I would like now to invite Ms. Nurul Sofia, who is the Minister Counselor at the Permanent Mission of Indonesia to the UN and other international organizations in Geneva. She specializes in economic, digital, and environmental affairs at the UN and other organizations. Prior to her posting in Geneva, she was the vice coordinator for the G20 task force for Indonesia's G20 presidency in 2022. As a diplomat and policymaker, she has played important roles in formulating Indonesia's foreign policy and in relation to the global economy and international financial institutions. Ms. Sofia, if I could ask, in view of Indonesia's successful experiences with building and deploying DPIs, for example, for healthcare, for social inclusion, for payment systems like CRIS and BI Fast, and in view of you hosting the next Global DPI Summit in March 2027 in Bali, could you please share some of Indonesia's success stories on DPI, and what are the lessons that Indonesia has learned from its experiences that could be shared with other developing countries and stakeholders?
Thank you, Dennis. Thank you for the invitations. I would share a bit slide as well, like to answer the questions. Okay, so basically, like my presentations is all going to capture the one that's already presented by our previous speaker from Brazil as well as from India. Indonesia is going to host a DPI Summit. It's going to be next year in 2027 from 22nd March to 25 March. Look forward for your attendance in Bali. We are together with ITU, ODAT, UNDP, World Bank Group, and also the co-develop. We are going to host it, and this is going to be historically first for Asia. So it's going to be a multi-stakeholder platform to discuss sharing best practice and support the inclusive DPI. Regarding the Indonesian DPI itself, we believe that digital transformation, digital government is fundamental. It's not about counting the applications that government use, but how to make everyday life of our citizen meaningful. As the world's largest archipelagic nations, over 280 million people, with more 17,000 islands, DPI is a useful tool. It bridges the geographical distance, it connects remote regions, and then it delivers good public services. As you asked, we have like some example of our DPI ecosystem. We have this national identity number. It's going to be, I think, 50 million user we expect at the end of this month. And then it's expected to reduce also repetitive identifications, verifications, it increase public service, and then to support more seamless, secure, citizen-centered digital service across Indonesia DPI system. And then other than that, we also have One Data Indonesia is interoperability between institutions, government institutions. So we have data from our National Planning Agency, we have data from our geospatial agencies, and then we combine it together in order like to make it useful, efficient, transparent, more productive for the government deliver the service to its citizen. And then this is going to also be to put into law for this year. And the last one, as the example, we have also the payment system. This is so similar with PIX in Brazil. This is as QR code payment by the central bank. So before 2019, shopping in Indonesia, you have to face like when you travel to different country, you have to bring like different travel adapter for different electricity tools. So that's before 2019, but after that the central bank create this CRIS system. So this solve fragmentations. It is one single standard and then one single app to pay for everything. It's more or less like Twin in Switzerland, but the difference is that CRIS, like PIX, is made by the central bank. So it's government owned, it's government regulated, but it's involve other stakeholders to make it work. And then the impact of CRIS is quite advanced in a way. One, it help financial inclusions. It build data transactions, so the data is collected. So before the small medium enterprise that doesn't have credit rating history, or like the poor people that doesn't have like credit record to make a loan. So based on this, the transaction, because it's recorded by the central bank, the street vendor that was invincible to the traditional bank now become visible. They could access instant micro loan. And this is, I think, like our presenter from India, it's also in line with the call about the democratic data monetization. So we could turn the citizen data into a personal economic asset. And then the second one, if this is also about the collaborations, the collaborative action with multi-stakeholders. So this is not one dominant state-run monopoly, but it's a hybrid ecosystem. The system creates harmonized state infrastructure with aggressive private technology, and then it's connect like hundreds of public and private institutions as well to the system. And then this system also show or the example of how South-South cooperation, the sovereign South-South cooperation work, because CRIS is also work not only in Indonesia, but in some other Asian countries, for example, Thailand, Malaysia, Singapore, China, and this is show also the South-South cooperation is the key. And then we are also moving away from the dominance of the Western system, like for example, Master or Visa, but then we create our own South paying system, and then we this is also could bypass the Western dominant card monopoly and then global clearinghouse. So the success of CRIS from 2019 now is already like supported by 41 million merchants worldwide. and then it's also recorded by 58 million users, and then 10.3 billion transactions worldwide. So this is important to help as well small micro businesses, and also to provide sustainable development, inclusive development, and then eradicate poverty as well. So this is show that digital transformations cannot be built by governments alone. Indonesia utilize open collaborative government approach. I think this is also in line what have been said by three others speaker before, that this collaborative government approach are important to collaborate with civil society, academia, private partner, and then DPI is one of core strategic pillar of Indonesia Digital Vision's 1945. That's why we are happy to host digital DPI summit, the Global DPI Summit next year, and because it's connect as well in our system, digital identities, data exchange, e-government, and then to provide more accountable, transparent, seamless public and financial service to our citizen. So we support Global South at the center of data governance, and DPI could be the platform, and we could ensure that technology and DPI to support inclusive sustainable development and have citizen centric. Thank you.
Thank you very much, Sophia. Your presentation is really interesting, especially as this highlights how a government-led approach, complemented by multi-stakeholders across different DPI systems, is actually very efficient in capturing the people who have been excluded, SMEs, street vendors, people who have traditionally not been part of the governance system, governance frameworks, financial frameworks. So, and the fact that they also have their data and they're able to utilize the data within these DPI systems. It's actually a very important example of how having a state and stakeholder-led, multi-stakeholder-led approach is actually revolutionizing digital transformation in developing countries. We are almost at the top of the hour, but there's a couple of questions in the chat which you have received, and I'll just read them out to the colleagues. So a couple of questions are to Mr. Rajesh and Meghna. So the question is, in the presentation that you made, what does it mean by data commons, and what are the intellectual property rights for data commons? How will they be governed? Who will the intellectual property rights belong to, and why in your model? So, sir, you have the floor.
Yeah, thank you, Danish, for mentioning those questions. I think the first question Meghna will take, and I'll take the second question. Thank you.
Thank you, Danish. So data commons are basically shared data pools to which both individuals and organizations can contribute to. So the contributions can be voluntarily or they can be incentivized. So if it's a voluntary contribution, it can be anybody. Suppose if there is a pain point of a community, they want to create a data set for it. So it can be done like that. So if a language is fading away, so some NGOs might want to create a data set and digitalize it. That can be one way. Otherwise, the second type of data commons is incentivized data common, which suppose if a company wants, or a corporation or a business wants particular type of data, but they do not have access to it, so they can initiate creation of one such data set and incentivize people to contribute to it. So this is the idea of, and then these can be used by the community once these pools are created. Thank you.
And yes, with respect to the second question on the issue of IPR in these data commons, I think what Meghna has explained what is data common and what kind of data commons are available in this framework. So under the voluntary and incentivized based data commons, it is basically consent-based data sharing, be it voluntary or be it given with the view of having been incentivized by the data providers. Sorry, not data provider, data who is going to use that data, particularly by the entrepreneurs and the big tech players who are going to collect, use, and store that data. So there is no issue of IPR because all the data which is being collected is on the basis of the consent of the individual or the date or the person or the company who is owning that data. So the company is storing and collecting that data on the basis of the consent of the individuals, and individuals who are voluntary contributing to the data commons, it is based upon their own uh, consent. So that is why there is no question of IPR in this ecosystem. Thank you.
Thank you, Ramesh. There's one more question which I think is better addressed to Ms. Sophia and Mr. Breno. So the question is that there are digital solutions for cross-border payments that are being framed as trade infrastructure that would cut costs and increase transparency for firms, while also reshaping remittance corridors. You, Sophia and Bruno mentioned about how payment systems are affecting the most financially marginalized communities, and there's now cross-border payments. There is the mBridge project, for example, and then Indonesia's exchanges with Thailand and other countries on interoperable payment systems. But the question is, there's no standards in place. What would your view be if there is, say, for example, a plurilateral initiative at the WTO to create common rules and increase interoperability among these different payment systems? But then how would that proceed? Like, whose priorities would drive those sort of disciplines, and how can they expand so that, developing countries are able to benefit from these sort of cross-border payments and they're not left at the mercy of external payment providers? Ms. Sophia, Mr. Brenner. Mr. Brenner, if you have the floor, and then Sophia.
We have on the G20 a priority for developing improvements to cross-border transactions in order to reduce the costs, to increase the access, to increase the transparency, and to speed the cross-border transactions. The leadership of this project is being held by the Financial Stability Board and by the Committee on Payments and Market Infrastructures from the BIS. So these multilateral organizations' leadership is pretty important in order to coordinate the objectives and the interaction between all the national jurisdictions that have similar instant payment infrastructures, and how to connect these DPIs. It's really important to have this kind of coordination. On the other side, we are seeing some natural conversations emerging and some initiatives emerging. For example, the Nexus organization on the Southeast Asia that connects 6 countries, including Indonesia, India, Malaysia, Singapore, Thailand, and the Philippines, on a concrete project in order to improve the cross-border corridors of digital transfers by connecting these payments DPIs. Brazil also have conversations with Nexus, with the European Central Bank, and we know that the NPCI from India is also talking with these other organizations. So we have these 2 initiatives. We have one that is centralized and below the multilateral organizations that I really believe that's really helpful for the coordination. But we do have these natural conversations between payment system operators, central banks, to connect bilaterally to build bridges upon, and it's believed that those payments DPIs, they are probably all the problems and solve the problems that we see on cross-border payments.
Thank you. We missed you like a little bit, but we got the gist of the idea. Sophia?
Thank you for the questions, Dennis. I just want to add what my colleague from Brazil has said. So basically, this cross-border payment that we use CRIS as the example, it paid in the local currency in a way, so it support the local currency use and then reduce the volatility of US dollar as the intermediary. So that's why it's growing in ASEAN. For example, like Indonesia and Thailand, Indonesia pay in the rupiah, and then Thais paid in Thai baht, and then it's also reduced the exchange rate cost, and then it strengthened monetary stability among countries in ASEAN. We don't have rules yet in the regions, but I think in a way it's good. So the governance made by the standard that has to be maintained, accountability, transparency, and other banking standard, but not specific rules that limit the cross-border transactions. But the current, in a way, standard already working to make it better, and then to make it seamless and reduce the transactions and to make it low cost, and also enrich the collaboration between countries in the region. So we have it through the regional approach like ASEAN.
Thank you very much. That also highlights the importance of having South-Southern international cooperation. So you have interoperable approaches between countries, and you can reduce transaction costs, because one of the important things was to reduce the cost of a transaction to below 3%, especially in terms of remittances. So having that, especially given it's such an important source of financing for development for developing countries. So that is a really important thing on how you can reduce costs from cross-border payments. We are unfortunately beyond our allocated time, so I think I will have to stop here, and I will take this opportunity to thank all of our panelists and Dr. Correa. Thank you very much for joining the thing. We hope this has been an enriching conversation, and we hope to take it forward. And we will send out the report from this webinar to everyone. Thank you very much.
Thank you so
You
much.
take care.
Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank you.